Welcome to a brand new episode of the UFO Show. In this installment, we learn the Ukraine is doing their own private study into UAPs. We see what some call the world's greatest photograph of a UFO, and a man reveals aliens showed him visions of Covid and World War III. Uh-oh, let's get to it. Obviously, there's a lot going on in the Ukraine right now, as the country's battle with Russia rages on. But we're not here to comment on that. We're here to focus on something positive related to the region. And of course, it has to do with the exploration of outer space. Despite everything currently happening there, Ukraine has revealed they've taken it upon themselves to do their own study of the same unidentified aerial phenomenon that both the Pentagon and NASA are looking into. On August 22, 2002, the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine, or NAS, published a study revealing their main astronomical observatories have been capturing footage of UAPs in the sky in broad daylight. Using highly sophisticated cameras housed at two separate meteor observation stations, Ukrainian researchers boasted that, thanks to their special observation techniques, they've collected enough data to confidently say they've seen two types of UAPs, the cosmics and the phantoms. According to the researchers, cosmics are luminous objects brighter than the background of the sky, while phantoms are dark objects. Both UAPs exhibit incredibly high speeds and, to quote the study, "We see them everywhere." Furthermore, the paper says, quote, "We observe a significant number of objects whose nature is not clear. Flights of single, group, and squadrons of the ships were detected, moving at speeds from 3 to 15 degrees per second." The paper, which gets thoroughly in depth in terms of the cameras used, includes some graphs explaining how they've come to see these conclusions, as well as images of the phantom objects. It's heartening to know we have another country on the lookout for UAPs. With so many eyes directed at the sky, one could get hopeful that some concrete evidence is coming our way in the near future. In August of 1990, two hikers in Calvine, Scotland, saw a strange, metallic, diamond-shaped object hovering in the sky, and of course, took a series of photos of the thing, whatever it was. One of the photos showed a remarkably clear and distinct look at what appears to be a UAP, and has since been dubbed history's clearest image of a UFO. So why isn't this one of the most famous photographs in history? Easy, because it went missing for 32 years and has only now resurfaced thanks to the dogged investigation of a British professor. David Clark, a journalist and associate professor at Sheffield Hallam University, has been trying to unearth the Calvine photograph for over 13 years. For reasons that went unknown for over 2 decades, this image of what appears to be a UFO and a fighter jet in the background had seemingly vanished. But Clark's investigation finally paid off after learning the last remaining copy of the object was in the possession of former Royal Air Force press officer Craig Lindsay, who has evidently been waiting for the day someone came looking for it. Some background. After the hikers took the photograph, they brought it to Scotland's Daily Record to have it published. Bizarrely enough, the paper chose to not do so, and instead handed the photo over to the Ministry of Defence in London, where it arrived in the hands of Mr. Lindsay. Lindsay then ordered the paper to send the picture's negatives to the ministry, which the paper indeed did. After that, the photo went missing, presumably banished into history, never to be seen again. The mystery of why this happened still hasn't been solved. Professor Clark explained to Newsweek, quote, "The negatives have never been seen since they reached the Ministry of Defence. Now, the Ministry of Defence say that they returned them to the Daily Record, but the Daily Record say they never received them and they have no idea what happened to them, so there's a lot of questions to be answered." He's not wrong about that. Add to that this mystery. The identities of the two hikers who took the photo have never been uncovered. What we do know about them is that they were chefs at a nearby hotel, and one day, while on a routine hike, they came across this fascinating object hovering in the sky. Apparently, their names won't be unveiled until 2072, as the Ministry of Defense cites privacy concerns. I think it's safe to say that by 2072, we may have moved on to other matters, but it's still worth marking your calendar if you expect to be alive in the 2070s. Clark says the object startled the two men and they ran for cover. Quote, "They ran into some woodland to sort of keep their heads down, and they heard this jet come down the valley, and then, 2 minutes later, it returned and started circling around the object, and that's when they took the photographs." One of Clark's colleagues at the university, a senior lecturer in photography, studied the images and determined it had not been manipulated, at least not after being developed, saying, quote, "This is either a genuine, unidentified flying object in the sky, or any construction or manipulation used to create this effect occurred in front of the camera and not in the capturing of the scene on film, nor in the subsequent processing and printing of the image." Interestingly, despite how startling the evidence is, Clark is not convinced it's from galaxies unknown. He said, quote, "Sadly, I do not think that mysterious aircraft arrived from another galaxy. I believe it was man-made, somewhere in a secret hangar. And whatever it was remains on the secret list and highly sensitive." That said, Clark hopes the publishing of the photograph will prompt someone to come forward, either the hikers who took it or someone who knows them, so we can get to the bottom of what happened that August day in Scotland. And if they do come forward and have a story to tell, you'd better believe we'll report back to you on this. In the meantime, what do you think that strange aircraft is? We're staying in the Wayback Machine for this very unusual story about a man who's seen the future, thanks to the aliens who abducted him. It's 1973, Pascagoula, Mississippi. Fishermen Calvin Parker and Charles Hickson are hoping to get the catch of the day. Unfortunately for them, they're about to be the catch of the day for something out of this world. Parker and Hickson see an extraordinary craft descend from the sky and hover above them. Before the men could even react, 3 humanoid creatures floated out of the craft and abducted them. Said creatures had lobster-like claws and carrot-like noses and ears, which might just be one of the more bizarre descriptions we've ever heard yet for extraterrestrials. The men were experimented on. At a certain point, the men were deposited back from whence they came. Disoriented and scared, they called the local police and reported their shocking experience. Naturally, authorities were skeptical. But that would not dissuade Parker from telling his story. And he did, in a book fittingly called Pascagoula, The Closest Encounter. That book was released in 2018, but Parker's not done telling his story, adding things he left out that he now feels he needs to disclose. In an interview with the UK's Mirror, Parker claims he saw visions of a plague and of World War III. He's now coming forward with these revelations because, well, the globe has indeed recently seen a pandemic. Could this be what Parker was showing all those years ago? Quote, "There is a plague going on now," Parker told the Mirror. "Of course, there has always been some kind of plague since the beginning of time, but from what I saw, this one gets even worse." Not only that, but Parker was shown terrifying visions of a potential Third World War. Parker says, quote, "There's going to be a great war that one side blames the other. In my vision, I have seen people's skin melt off their body. I don't know if it's a nuclear war or not, but it puts nation against nation. There will not be a nation on Earth that is not touched by this war." If that sounds rather dire, you should know that Parker has some good news to cap it off with. He had a vision of a world that would piece itself back together after the war, with healing that will come about slowly but surely. If you're somewhat skeptical, we'll let Parker wrap this up with one last plea. Quote, "I didn't come up with this on my own. This was not a figment of my imagination. This is what I saw, or I should say, was shown during my abduction experience. I truly hope that these future visions do not come true." I think we're on board with you there, Calvin. A special side note, if you happen to live near Pascagoula, the town still commemorates the abduction with a celebration. Somewhat odd considering how traumatic it sounded, but hey, anything to bring a little attention to the paranormal, right? If you happen to get abducted, please report your visions of the future ASAP instead of waiting 50 years. It might be more helpful in the present than in the future.
What's the meaning of this?
Find out in 30 years!
That's it for now, folks. The truth is out there, somewhere. And we're going to be keeping an eye on things for all you true believers. And if you have anything to share with us, don't hesitate to send us an email at ufoshow@joeblow.com. We're eager to hear from all of our fellow UFO and outer space enthusiasts. Also, please share your thoughts and any cool extraterrestrial news you have in the comments section. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, as we're going to be your one-stop shop for all things alien going forward. Until next month, keep watching the skies.